my new lighting setup actually looks pretty good. My face isn't blowing out. It's a nice change of pace. But seriously though, it's been several weeks here of a shelter-at-home policy here in Michigan, and how many miniatures have I painted? 0. Let's change that this week. So if we haven't met before, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and welcome to this Age of Sigmar Warcry speed paint. Now, my goal here is to take these Stormcast Eternal, you see on my tabletop right now, at least 3 of them. I painted the basic guys tonight, and we're going to turn them into this using a speed paint method. This is about coming up with a method for painting your rank and file miniatures relatively quickly and getting them on the tabletop and looking pretty gosh darn decent, because let's be realistic, in a world where most people have gray plastic, it doesn't take a whole lot to stand out. Now, my techniques here hopefully allow you, once you batch these guys out, to be under 45 minutes per miniature. And that's like, painting time anyway. It's a little bit more time for drying and whatnot. But for the most part, about 45 minutes of active painting can get these guys painted, detailed, and based. So let's get this Age of Sigmar Warcry painting tutorial started. So I've got them primed in black, and there's a little bit of video here of that priming process using my 3D printed priming tool. And if you want to check this tool out, I'm going to have the STL file, so if you want to print your own for sale over at Etsy for a few dollars, you can find a link for that in the show notes. The first layer is a dark brown color. I'm using Rhinox Hide from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints. So pretty much cover the entire miniature, but avoid areas you want to be a pure black or pure white. So for the next few layers, we're going to do a lot of dry brushing. I'm going to start with a yellow color. The yellow color I'm working with is from Army Painter's War Paint series. It's Desert Yellow. And this will be used as an undercoat to all the gold areas. Dry brushing is kind of one of those techniques that people like to rag on, but it actually can be really, really good. And if you find the brown paint is not dry yet, don't worry about that too much. Let it blend in with the yellow. This is, once again, kind of an undercoat for the shiny gold armor. So now we're going to start moving on to the actual gold armor. My choice in gold is going to be bright gold. It's a metallic paint from Army Painter's War Paint series. As with the previous layer, this is going to be a lot of dry brushing. By dry brushing, you're going to allow yourself to build up the brightness and shininess of the armor to the level you want a little bit at a time. It actually gives you a lot of control over how your final armor is going to look. Now it's time to add some highlights to the gold. That's going to be done with a different metallic color, in this case, a silver. I'm going to Army Painter's War Paint series for my silver color, and I'm using their metallic color, Shining Silver. This is going to be applied once again with a dry brush, very lightly, keyword there is very lightly, in areas where you think the light would be catching on the miniature. This will turn the gold a little bit brighter, a little bit shinier than the rest of the gold, and make those areas stand out in sort of a pseudo edge area highlighting effect. Now if you do go a little bit too overboard with the silver and lose the gold color too much, feel free to go back with some more gold, dry brush it, and bring it down a bit more. Now it's time to bring out some details, and for that we're going to use a wash. For this I've got Seraph and Sepia. This is a shade from Games Workshop, Citadel line of paints, and I'm going to be using an Artificer Layer extra small brush to run it into all the details and crevices on the miniature. So I'm not trying to completely coat the miniature, I'm trying to coax this into some of the more recessed areas. Now we're kind of at the end of the carefree process. We got to start doing some touch-up work. So I'm going to start with my gold color that I used, get on my Artificer Layer extra small brush, and just clean up the armor a little bit and paint all the areas that I missed with the dry brushing. Continuing on and cleaning up our oopsies, we're going to take some black. Well, my choice of black is Abaddon Black from Games Workshop, Citadel line of paints. And fix in the areas I covered in gold by mistake, and also fill in some of the areas between the armor that kind of look like maybe soft material parts. I don't know if that's what they are, but that's how I'm painting them to be. Moving on to the areas that are going to be more or less pure white. And to start that process, we're going to put down a base coat of gray. For a basic gray color, I'm using Dawnstone. This is from Games Workshop, Citadel line of paints. Don't worry about this step and applying it to the white icons on the armor. That can just have white applied a little bit later. And the reason we're doing this process is white paint's a little bit tricky to get a nice clean coating over things, especially on the black primer. So by having a gray layer, not only do you get a little bit of built-in contrast, but you also have a surface that's a little bit more friendly to white. It's time to actually move on to applying the white. I'm going to be using Linen White from Reaper's Master Series, which is a slightly off-white color, which is what I like to use, but the choice is up to you. Now this is going to be a 2-layer process. The first layer is going to be a mixture of white and your gray color, and then you're going to apply just the white. Before we're done with the white, we're going to move on to painting the icons on the armor and the shield, and for that, it's really just 1 layer of solid white. We're getting reports of 1.75-inch hail out of Grand Ledge, Michigan, a site famous for being one of the few outdoor rock climbing sites in the state. At least in the lower peninsula. There's probably also cool crap up in the upper peninsula, but you know. We don't got a lot of good outdoor rock climbing places here in the lower peninsula of Michigan. So the final step of the white parts is going to be to add some gold highlights to some of the rivets and mechanical parts like that, just to give a little bit of color contrast to the area. Next, we're moving on to the kind of leather areas of the miniature. This includes things like the handle of the hammer, the sword scabbard, as well as the belt around his waist. For the first step, you want to go back to whatever dark brown you used at the very beginning of the painting process. So, going back to Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints, Rhinox Hide. Step 2 of the leather painting process is going to be a lighter brown color. My light brown color, well, that's Army Painter's War Paint Series, Leather Brown. Just lightly go over all the areas with this color. You don't have to do full coverage. You want some of the dark brown showing through, but just use this color to get some highlights. One final quick layer for the leather parts, and that's going to be using a dark wash. For the dark wash, I always like to use Nun Oil. This is the shade and the non-gloss version from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. Just very quickly go over the various parts with this color, and we'll call it good. The one thing I don't really like about the paint scheme in front of me here is it's all kind of the same color. Nothing really stands out or catches your eye, so let's work on that part right now. I'm going to actually add some red into the mix and make just a few areas of detail really pop out for your eye to catch and be kind of a really nice standout contrast color feature. Not that type of contrast color. Not the Games Workshop line of paints contrast color, but a nice kind of contrast from the browns and golds we have going on right now. For the bright red here, I'm using Evil Sun Scarlet from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. And all I'm really doing is looking for a few interesting details, like the collar around the hammer, the pommel of the hammer, some of the details on the sword and the sword scabbard. I'm going to paint that red. And you know what? I think I'm also going to add a bit of a challenge to this. Paint the eyes of these guys red, and I'm also going to add maybe a few details of red to the left shoulder pauldron. Maybe like some sort of rank or unit marker. The painting part of the miniatures is done. Let's move on to their bases, which, on the topic of me being terrible with self-promotion, I sell these bases on Etsy store, by the way, in case you're wondering where they came from. Totally forgot about that part. Okay, very simple paint job though. They're like a cobblestone surface, and these are going to go alongside my Corpsewrack mausoleum that I did some speed painting of a few months ago on this channel. Find a link to that video in the show notes as well. So I'm just going to give them a very simple coat of gray, wash them with some Nun Oil, and then a little bit of gray-white highlights, and then put some snow on the base and call it done. The last thing I like to do, just to give my miniatures a nice, final, clean appearance, is to go around the rim of the base with a black paint. Alternatively, you can use this method to paint them different colors to identify different squads or different units, different characters, whatever it may be. That's an option that's commonly seen as well. So let's call these miniatures complete. Thank you guys all for watching. Once again, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Hopefully you enjoyed this particular speed painting miniature fiasco. It kind of went pretty well. But you know what? That's kind of what I do in this channel because, hey, why not have at least a decently well-painted army instead of a bunch of gray plastic, right? So go ahead and leave in the comments if you want to see me paint up a different type of gaming miniature with the speed painting method. I think with these guys here, if you batch them out, you're probably looking, according to my watch, about 40 minutes each when you get your paint scheme down. And that's not too bad to get a miniature from prime to on the tabletop. So, of course, once again, check out the Etsy links for the STLs for the 3D printed priming tool. Thank you, Brain, as well as my bases. Those are available for sale as well. Well, I sell the actual bases. I probably could put the STLs up there, too. It's kind of easier for a lot of people, isn't it? Might just do that. Okay. So, anyway, I've got 2 more guys in the warband here to paint up. I think it's the Paladin, maybe? I forget. I don't know the Stormcast Eternals very well. But then the warband leader, who is like the sergeant equivalent of whatever these. I don't know my Stormcast Eternals. I'll be honest with you. So I'll be painting those up sometime in the future. So that's another reason to hit subscribe. If I didn't already say that, I probably did. But I think that is about it. So for like the 4th time, thank you guys all for watching and have a great week. Oh, wait, hold on. No. I totally forgot. One more thing you posted in the comments. If you know where the black, gold, and white color scheme comes from, that's a trivia question for you guys. You can dig around. You can probably figure out why I would choose that. So, for real, thanks all for watching, and have a great week.